agreement we all came to consensus on last time, because we wanted the public to be able to be a part of that presentation. Now you're asking for yet another meeting and something else at a different, at that same time, and we already asked for a meeting and we scheduled a meeting to do exactly what you asked. That's what I'm saying. So, I mean, that's part of, again, I can't make rules for the ITN process because I don't run those meetings, so that's that. We created a meeting because you said you were concerned to make sure that the public was part of it, and we created that. Now there's gotta be an argument. I mean, when were we gonna stop arguing, folks, and just look at the facts, okay? This is how the process works, and we scheduled a special meeting where everybody can openly speak about it.
When?
Quiet in the chambers, please. But it'll be noticed because it has to be noticed. It has to be published in the newspaper so that we follow all the rules and regulations. I can't just say, let's do it tomorrow, and let's all show up and have this meeting, because that doesn't follow the protocol for the city meetings. We have to notify and publish the meetings because we're all gonna be present and part of it. That's how we do every single meeting. So I'm very confused, but would you like to continue on? Did you have some other items on there? Because this is not a voting matter here, we're in commissioner comments.
Okay.
All right, and liaison reports, so can we please move on to that?
Okay, I think, sounds like there's not really support for that idea, so I guess we'll move on.
He needs to finish his comments, his liaison report, please.
Over the weekend, I was invited and attended the Florida Earth Festival in Boca Raton, and did my little want to be an engineer solar power and generator bicycle demonstration, and had kids running televisions and lights and blenders and things, and they, you know, trying to generate future engineers and folks that are interested in renewable energy. That seemed to do well. I'd like to also call attention to this coming weekend on the 25th, which I believe is Saturday. Delray Beach will be having a high water event. They will be drawing chalk lines through their community to indicate where sea level will be under certain assumptions of sea level rise and where that shows up in their communities. To draw awareness to that, you can look for that at highwaterline.org or at floridaearthfestival.com. That's this coming Saturday. And that's it for my comments.
Vice Mayor?
I need to go back to this ITN process.
We're
Madam Mayor, I'm tired of people framing things in such a way that if we don't support it, we must be against it. None of us are here are against public input. None of us here are opposed to transparency. And I'm sick and tired of us getting beaten up by the twisting and distortion and the framing of sentences. Okay, we already made accommodations to have another layer of transparency, another opportunity for folks to speak. And for any of us to sit up here and say, well, I don't see much support for it, so I must be against it. That's not what we're talking about here. Furthermore, I have a question for Andy, Mr. Amoroso. This is a process that we have not completed, is that correct?
Correct. The only reason that the ITN has a certain period of time, and we actually went above and beyond our time because we asked for an additional meeting because the board had additional questions for the people. We think that this will be our last meeting, but if the board chooses to ask more questions and to research more information before they bring it to the people in the commission, there could be other meetings.
Right.
But we're thinking this will be the last meeting.
My reason for asking this is because throughout the entire process, none of the other four of us have been privy to the meetings. Okay? So this is just another step, if you will, in this process. I have no intention to attend the meeting on the 28th because it's another step in the process. My only interest in this effort is what is the final product going to be? What is the recommendation going to be from this committee? And then I will make a decision and evaluate how I make my decision based on whatever is presented to the commission. Now, if we go back to Commissioner McBoy's,
Can we quiet in the
if we
chamber?
go back to his request to have public comment after the fact, I will not be here to hear the public comment, to intake, if you will, the concerns or comments of the public. And my question is, how are those comments going to be recorded, and how are they going to be given back to the rest of us to consider?
let's not go back and forth with questions, but make your points,
But
please.
that is my point.
Okay, any other liaison reports?
Well, I'm not done, I haven't even started mine yet.
That's what I'm saying.
I'll keep it, really brief now. These are mostly city manager related. Are you still with us?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. You know, we had a
So is
situation.
it my happy spot?
We had a situation here, and I know that you're aware of it, I'll just ask you for the answer, but here a week or so ago, we had a power outage in my district. I guess it went on for 2 or 3 hours, and I got a couple of phone calls from folks after the fact that said, hey, we tried to get in touch with you, but, you know, we didn't know what was going on. Well, as it turns out, they didn't actually call me, they actually called the city, and apparently they assert that they had left messages with the city. Now, my question to you is, have we been able to vet that out yet?
We've checked everything and rechecked everything, and we haven't found what number they called or what
Okay.
was recorded.
And then we also talked about
And that was also, there's about 19 customers on that one end of that line. It's not enough of a fluctuation if something like that goes out to trigger the alarms.
oh, I see.
And they were truly correct at SysOps in saying that this is not something that they would have necessarily seen in SysOps.
Right.
To have sent the trucks out, so they are in a way relying on that
Right.
call to come in and say, hey, the power's out, what's going on?
Okay.
And that was you have to see a significant fluctuation to actually see the alarms go off.
Fair enough. Well, I have your attention here. I want to follow up again. I've been asking for well over a year, if not 2 years, for a code enforcement workshop. And I'm becoming increasingly impatient over that. 162 is the easy read, even for me. We really need to get this and roll it out there so folks can start to embrace the process and how it works.
From what I understand, Mr. Woods is scheduling meetings with the neighborhood associations. There's a few more tweaks on the presentation that I didn't like before it goes out. But the process, the presentation you saw at the workshop
Right.
has been pared down and streamlined, so that'll be rolling out. I also was working with staff to try to come up with the next phases, which would be the landlord-tenant workshops, but we've got to get this first one out. It's been long-standing, difficult, I apologize for that.
And also, I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, but this is a public request. Maybe we would like to engage PBSO and ask them to come in periodically and give us a report. We used to have them come in the past.
Yes, sir.
But more of a, where are we in terms of crime? What are the trends and how things are going with that? Because I think, we do have some issues. Every community has issues. But I think we need to put things in proper context and proper perspective, and we need to hear directly from PBSO.
Yes, sir. Based on your request, I talked to them. We'll probably send it at least quarterly.
Okay. That would be very helpful, I think, for me. I'd feel a little bit better.
Yes, sir.
And also, 1 or 2 meetings ago, I requested a workshop, a standalone opportunity for the 5 of us to come together and to brainstorm or offer, if you will, our suggestions, recommendations, if you will, for generating new revenue for the city and reducing expenses prior to going into the budget cycle. So everybody has a clear understanding of what's available to us in terms of, the budget process going forward. Is that something we can?
The clerk will tell you our meeting schedule is pretty tight with workshops, including the budget workshops. What you'll find, Commissioner, is that in the Burton program and process that we're rolling out this year as part of our, really trying to create that budget transparency, there's going to be workshops at the very beginning that, as we walk through the spreadsheets and show the, it's not called a dashboard, but that's what I call it, of the different indicators that you'll be looking at. There'll be a lot of opportunity to have the discussion on both cuts and desires to spend money in those spreadsheet analysis, and that'll happen in real time. You'll get to see the effects of it. Having a workshop to have everybody do a brain dump early on, it's not something I don't know if we can schedule before with the schedule we have. But
Well, I would say, I think I understand where you're coming from, but I don't think that's really adequate enough, and I'll tell you why. Because it's really cool when you get that dashboard, as you referred to up there, we all start playing with it, we forget the bigger picture, and that is, we really need to know before we go into that exercise, what opportunities do we have to increase our revenues? Because that will help us better understand how to manipulate that data on the dashboard. What opportunities do we have to reduce expenses? That will help us manipulate the data on the dashboard. And I really think it needs to be a standalone effort, so we clearly understand what our opportunities are to increase revenues and to decrease expenses.
Okay?
Can we get consensus from the
I
commission
need,
to do
I need
that?
direction on that, and then I need to tell the clerk, she's gonna have to shoehorn that in. We might have to do it on a weekend.
I'm not sure.
Are you commenting on that?
Yeah.
Is everybody, is
Sure,
everybody
go ahead.
good?
Um,
So the intent of the workshop is to have the commission bring to that workshop their general ideas, that we can compile them and have a discussion about them for.
Commissioner McBoyd?
Yeah, I think I see, and this may be a little difficult for the public and those listening even harder to follow the discussion, but what Commissioner Maxwell, I think, is referring to with, and the city manager is referring to with the dashboard, is this is a tool that Burton and Associates, the folks that help us set rates
For the water utilities.
for the water utilities, not for the electric, but they could, although they do water typically. They've developed a very nice tool. It's basically a nice interface to, with a lot of data behind it, to a spreadsheet where you can do what-if scenarios. Well, suppose that we change this part of how we budget things. What would that do going out 10 years? And the nice part about it is that it's very quick, interactive. They'll be here to, as we think of ideas to change things, and you can right away see, well, this alternative compared to that one has these financial effects. And across different parts of the city, it's very data-driven, both data from the city, from the current year and past year, past finances, as well as having information available to it of other cities, usually of comparable size, so that you can get an idea, so that we can learn from it. So I would say, with all due respect, Commissioner Maxwell, that I think the discussion of different ways of funding will very naturally arise out of working with that tool. And as we see, because it has all the different available streams in it already. So it's more a matter of, as we jiggle one knob up and down, what does that affect? Does that make sense? It seems like an intuitively good idea, but ooh, look at what it does to this. I think that discussion will be much more valuable with some reality tied into it and with the ability to get instant feedback. So I know that our schedules, I've been informed by the city clerk that we're packed every Tuesday from here till I don't know when. I'm reluctant to have just a general meeting to talk. I'd rather do it with the tool. And if we find that we use the tool, we still need more information, fine. I think it will naturally come out in the course of using that, and I think it'll come out in a much more grounded, meaningful way because you got data and tool tied to it.
Okay. Vice Mayor, you weren't finished, were you?
I just don't, I disagree. I don't know if you can manipulate that dashboard or that data without knowing what you have beyond what's on in front of you to begin with. I mean, because obviously, whatever we've done in the past is pretty stagnant. What I'm looking for is new ideas. Where are the new ideas? Because we keep hearing about all this money that we're sitting on. People seem to think that we have this vault of money that we're not talking to anybody about. You know, what do we do? I need to find out what our ideas are. We don't want development in our city, okay? We don't want investment in our city. So if we're not gonna have development, we're not gonna have redevelopment, we're not gonna have investment, okay, then what are we going to do to make ends meet? What do we need to do to increase our revenues in the current box that we have? And what can we do to reduce the expenses within the current box that we have to meet our obligations? And I think there are two exercises that need to be held separate and apart from one another. So can we get a consensus on that?
Commissioner Meyer?
I would just like to say that I, for one, do welcome investment in our city. So Commissioner Maxwell speaks for himself when he says that the commission does not want investment in this city. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, would you like to help?
Vice Mayor?
Would you like to correct the new commissioner?
We're not gonna go back and forth.
Well, I'm really tired of.
I understand how frustrated you are, I understand. But you know what, we've got business to take care of, and we have wasted far too much time at this point going back and forth like children, please. Please.
Well, the obstructionism needs to stop tonight.
I agree, hey, mayor's pick on ITN committee, I didn't realize that we actually picked people on the ITN committee. No, let's put that aside, excuse me, mayor's pick meaning to a fab board years ago. We can dissect these things as many ways as you want to make anything look like anything, but let's just focus on the truth here in this room, okay? Education Council, this is my report now. The Education Council, the Mayor's Education Council, we started it about 1.5 years ago. We have met back up again, and we had the principals from all of our area schools. Prior to this, the city had no formal relationship with our schools. It was simply handled through the county. So we have created an alliance between all of our schools, our principals, and we've discussed several issues, one of which highlighted the two of the areas, and we also had our Erica Whitfield from our school board was at the last meeting as well. And we talked about some of the issues that really that families are facing and what they really need in the community and what the school needs for support. And one of them was that VPK is very important in so many different ways, and that a lot of the children with this leaving kids back in school in the 3rd grade, this new rule that they've been following based on academic performance, that the majority of children who are being left behind in the 3rd grade did not attend a VPK program. And they're finding that to be proactive in that is not to start leaving back more kids because they're not progressing through the system well enough. It is to get them into VPK programs so that they can excel and won't be left back. So it's preventative as opposed to reactive. That was one of the ideas. The other idea was that from the high school level, there were lots of programs that go on to all times of the late afternoon, after school, and early evening hours, but the middle school children were really lacking once the school was over, and from like that 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. time period, there were kids getting in trouble and climbing back into schools, backyards and parking lots and things, and there was a lack of programs and programming for these kids. It was suggested and mentioned at this meeting by one of the principals that there are some organizations that have identified funds to actually run and staff these kinds of programs, not us, and that if we could find and locate within each district of our city an area or an organization, a church, a school, or whatever that would be willing to host these types of operations, preferably morning to early afternoon for VPK, and then afternoon to early evening hours for middle school students, that organizations, these organizations would then indeed run and operate these programs through their donors and whatnot that have funded them, and they would allocate the programs to them. So this is something that, again, school board is looking at, city's looking at, we're reaching out within the neighborhoods and the districts. But this is a very exciting thing. This is something that, we can bridge the gap for our children that are slipping through the cracks here. And I think that the schools themselves are very, very happy and excited about this. And they're putting a lot of elbow grease into getting this done. So I think that we're going to see some really nice things happening in the coming year. But I think this is a really good start to doing something positive with this education council that's going to impact a lot of children in our community. So I'm excited about that. Also excited to be at the playoffs and the medal ceremony. Imagine this, 300 3 to 14-year-old children playing soccer at a Grimes field. It was absolutely incredible. And I got to put medals on all of their little heads. It was very cute. And wonderful program that they have out there. When the program was started, the soccer program, there were 48 kids. Now we have over 300 children in the program, and it is just a great program. We're very blessed to be able to continue to run it and have found it in the budget to continue to run it. So that was an amazing time. MPO, Commissioner Meyer, which I mentioned earlier, I'm glad I wrote down. We have already applied for those quiet zones, and we did it as a group unanimously. I think we piggybacked Broward as well with that. We've applied for the monies to provide and pay for all the gate modifications that would make us available to do the quiet zones. So we've already taken that step. We've been working on it for, I guess, about 2.5 years now. And that's already gone through and it went out. So hopefully, because we're piggybacking with Broward, I think it's a very good chance that we're all going to get that. And those funds will be applied in our municipalities. And we even had staff come and meet to go out at all the different locations to see some of the ones, whether or not they might be abandoned, some of the older ones that had weird issues with You know, I'm not sure, but they looked at them already and they've made the plans and it looks good for funding, so I wanted to let you know about that. And that's it. All right, phew, that was the longest one ever.